Ladies and gentlemen, a very, very, very warm welcome to you all this evening. Thank you so much for coming out to be with us this evening. I think possibly at quite short notice. This is an evening we're going to be spending with Dadi Janki, and I think, as I look around the room, I've seen many of your faces before, so most of you, I think, have already met Dadi. Is there anyone here who has never met Dadi Janki? A few. So very, very warm welcome to you, and I hope you have a good time tonight. We're going to be trying to make this evening a little less blah blah and a little bit more experience. And there are a few housekeeping things that I'd like to cover off with you. I'm actually tonight standing in front of you feeling extremely self-righteous because I have actually come onto the stage without my mobile phone. I have found possibly the most embarrassing situation to be when the mobile phone goes off as I'm doing something on stage. But I can assure you that when we are practicing this practice of Raj Yoga in dead silence, I can assure you that when your cell phone goes off, you will be mortified. And for sure, your yoga will be finished. So, may I advise you, may I encourage you to please, if you can, turn your phone right off, and if you're a brain surgeon or something, you're allowed to keep it on vibrate, but that's about it. The other thing that I'd like to ask is, I know that in this modern day, it's possible to take photographs at any time, anywhere, with our mobile phones and whatnot, our smartphones. But we do have official photographers here. If I could ask you, no photographs tonight if you're not an official photographer. And if you are, you know who you are. In the very unlikely event of a fire, you can see around the room there are exits, and the ushers are trained to encourage you to go in the right direction. So please follow the ushers. So now let's get started. We'd like to begin this evening with a short address from the Honourable Mr. Sukhdev Singh Sidhu, who is the Minister of Coordination here in London at the Indian High Commission. So please, round of applause as the Honourable Sidhu comes up. And we should have a microphone for you, according to, this is a moment. Nice to see you. Hi. We don't have a microphone for you, but we will. We will. Stand here where they can see you, the lights. And microphone, please. Otherwise, oh, you got it. Okay. How'd you do that? All right.
Most Reverend Dadi Janki, brothers, sisters, distinguished guests, it's a great privilege for me to come to this august gathering. Actually, I have come in a listening mode, especially when some religious entities here. To all of us come with the open mind to listen and learn. But I have been told that I must convey about celebration of our yoga on 21st June as International Yoga Day. So that is also a matter of great pride for all of us, especially the Indians, who have been practicing yoga since centuries. And now the time has come, it has been acknowledged as an International Yoga Day. Though across the boundaries, all over the world, people have been performing yoga and enjoying the benefits of yoga. But it is the first time that acknowledged as all over the world, okay, this is something unique, a great gift from Indian civilization to the whole of the world. So we are really proud of this acknowledgement. And that's why on 21st June, you will see all over UK, rather all over the world, in different areas, with the help of our most organizations, we will perform yoga, we will discuss yoga, we will discuss the benefits of yoga and how a person can achieve most in his life if he is practicing yoga. Because yoga is something which unites the body action with your soul. And unless you have soul in something, whatever you are performing, you can't put your 100% in that thing. And unless you put 100%, you won't achieve. So it is for the young students, for the old people, for the mid-level people, that if they are performing yoga, wherever they are, whatever they are doing, they will get the best results. That's why we quite often in the Indian families tell our children that you must do yoga in the morning, then your exam will be good. You will get better marks. And that has been over the period of proved also. That if you go to India, these days the results are coming of 10th and 12th classes. You will find marks 99.5%. Even in today's, I think, day before yesterday in newspaper you might have read, many of the students got above 99%. So that is something which makes the students focus on their study. But apart from that, it is also for us matter of pride that Indian civilizations, which has been somehow, whether due to many other reasons, were not well connected with the rest of the world. The yoga gives us a medium through which I think we will approach each and every civilization across the world to tell something about India. Well, now with the Brahma Kumari organization, we have been performing one function, organizing one function in Nehru Center on that day. Many of the people will be coming there, and I am sure that whosoever comes there, they will be benefited by listening there, by participating there. Not taking much time, actually, I have initially said that I have come here in a listening mode, especially to Dadiji, because upstairs I asked one question. So Dadi told me whether you want answer here or in the meeting below stairs. So I am waiting for that. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask Sister Jayanti, who is the Brahma Kumari's director for Europe, and London is included in Europe. I'd like to ask Sister Jayanti to come up on the stage, and we are going to together investigate just exactly what is this power of yoga. Welcome to the stage, Sister Jayanti. So here we are, Sister Jayanti, and yoga power in a world of chaos. I suppose how I would like to start this conversation is really on behalf of some of you, possibly many of you, who, although we've heard the word yoga, and we've heard people talk about yoga, and people do yoga, and it sounds really good, and let's start with what exactly do we mean here in these four walls by yoga and yoga power?
Om Shanti and good evening, and thank you for the introduction and your question, Anthony. The word yoga actually has a very simple translation. It means union. And in our case, we are talking about a very specific type of union. Mr. Sidhu was sharing with us different ideas about yoga and mind and body and health and well-being, and all of those are, of course, part of this. And here we use a specific term called Raj Yoga. And Raj, anyone remembers the days of the British Raj? So the word Raj comes in there. Sovereignty, sovereign, the master, the king. And so the yoga, which is the highest of all yogas, which is actually the union of the self with the divine, with the supreme. And so we practice a form of meditation, and using the technique of meditation, and I'm sure we'll explore that later, but we come to that stage where the soul is able to experience this union with the supreme, in which we're able to receive, firstly, the experience of just simply peace, but then beyond that, light and might. And so when I use the word might, the inner spiritual power that comes from the divine. And so that power, the accumulation of the experience of God's light and might, is what we call yoga power.
So does that mean that in order to be interested in yoga, I actually have to not be very powerful? In other words, is yoga only for people who are a bit freaked out? Well, you know, most people are. Is anyone here never been irritated, frustrated, depressed? Yeah? So, okay, so we're part of the target audience.
When I came to yoga, I don't think I was freaked out.
Right.
And no, I certainly wasn't depressed or unhappy or stressed. It was a very beautiful experience of the joy of the 60s. So I'm a child of the 60s.
Right. Yeah, you're letting your secrets out.
No problem. But it just meant that it was a very joyful, invigorating time to be alive, because you could really feel that there was an energy about that could bring a transformation in the world and make the world a very beautiful place.
Right.
So, having said all of that, when I take power from the divine, what it does is to enhance my own inner abilities. What I'd like to do is to be able to have such clarity in my mind that I'm able to see exactly what's going on, instead of having a confused and a bit fuzzy, hazy idea of what's going on, but to have that perception that's very clear and refined. And so I think all of us would like a little bit more of that, no matter how good we may be.
Yeah, that's a very good promise, actually, that if you do Raj Yoga, your mind will clear and you will become more able to do or think the thoughts you want to think, do what you want to do. So how do you start? I mean, we don't necessarily want a sort of technical lesson here, but I mean, it's all very well to say, yeah, do yoga, but if you are, and I mean, you said that you were feeling pretty good back then in the 60s, but some people are not feeling so good, and you know, it says here, in a world of chaos, and of course we've all noticed on the news that things aren't so good. There's a lot to be angry about, there's a lot to be worried about. So it's not unusual to find people who are freaked out.
Right.
And you're not feeling good, you're not feeling stable, you're tense, mind's all over the place, and somebody says, you are a peaceful soul. And you know, I can sort of imagine them saying, no, I'm not. And then what happens is, for me anyway, I'm letting secrets out here, is that I pretend I'm peaceful. So I go, and I look around and I see what everyone else is doing, and I go,
Anthony, you missed your vocation.
I know,
You must have
actually,
been
yeah.
on stage
Thank you.
as an actor.
But I mean, this is, you know, because it's very easy to pretend to do yoga, and it's not so easy, in my experience anyway, to actually do it. And so as somebody, I mean, you've had people like me sitting in front of you a long time, so just for all of our benefit, like, how can we really get started to just make a connection with the feeling of yoga, just so we've got somewhere to start?
Okay. There are 3 steps of yoga, and easy, simple words: inwards, upwards, and then outwards. Nothing mystical, very simple. So inwards, I go on that inner journey in which I'm leaving the outside world stay outside. It's not going to go away, it'll still be there when I come back to it. But just for a few moments, what I'm doing is taking my attention inside, and I'm creating very consciously thoughts related to my own inner world. And as I go inwards, I'm able to touch that part of the inner self which is very, very silent and still. And if it doesn't happen instantly, that's okay. It's a journey. And so let me begin that journey and become aware of an energy that's located just here in the center of the forehead. And you'll be able to feel it. And in just a few minutes, we'll have a little demonstration. Yeah. And so just let yourself go deep, deep, deep inside. And you'll find that the spaces between the thoughts become longer. The spaces of stillness become deeper. And in that there is peace.
So, because it's very important, because I've listened to a lot of lectures about Raj Yoga, and I find myself going, yeah. And then about 5 minutes later, I can't really remember any of it. And I can't really do it. So just, when we're having those thoughts and going inwards, like just give, if I say, give me an example of a thought, you're going to say, yes, the thought is, I am a peaceful soul. But one of the things that I've done, and I think many of you probably would have done, and you know who you are, what you do is you sit here like that, and you go, I am a peaceful soul. I am a peaceful soul. I am a peaceful soul. And I'm not sure, I think I'm good at repeating. Is it like self-hypnotism? Because I don't think so.
No.
So really, I really want to get to this point, because if we don't take the first step properly, we can spend years not being there.
Sure.
So just really hone in on that first step so that all of us tonight can at least say we've taken the first step.
Excellent. Let me have the thought that I want to go on an inner journey. I want to see what's happening inside my own inner world. And go inside, and you'll find that there's lots and lots of thoughts. And you say, okay, what if I let the thoughts become quiet and I don't have so many thoughts? Can I do that? Just try it as an experiment. Don't try it with any expectation, but just simply as an experiment. Can I slow down the speed of my thoughts? And when you do this, you'll begin to feel that there is a stillness between the thoughts.
Okay, and then you start concentrating on that stillness between and kind of feeling the quality of that stillness. Is that right?
You begin to feel the quality of stillness, and you begin to feel an energy here.
Yeah. Now, what if you don't feel an energy here?
It's okay. Because you just continue
keep
to
experimenting.
Let yourself...
Now, experimenters observe. So, do you want me to be an observer of my thoughts?
It's not enough just to observe thoughts.
Okay.
I'd like you to be able to say, okay, can I stop this thought for just a moment? And I'll pick up on it and I'll come back to it.
Okay.
But I want to stop it.
Okay.
I'll come back to it later and explore it.
Yeah.
But not for now.
Okay.
And so just let yourself have that space. And it's in that space that you can feel the peace.
And then once you've done that, then you can move forward and start deciding what thoughts you're going to have.
Once you've done that, and you begin to feel that there is something special in the stillness that I'm experiencing now, you want to explore it further and see, well, where is it coming from? And you'll probably find that it's coming from deep down within you. And then you realize that, yes, there is peace within my own inner world. And then you realize that I can actually choose which thoughts to have.
Okay.
And then you start on the second step of knowing that my original state of being is peace. That's how I am naturally. And so let me try that as an experiment.
Okay. Now, when you're doing that bit, do you feel better? Okay. Now, if you feel better, why do you need God?
It's a separate subject.
Okay.
And
Because you said inward, upward, outward. So presumably outward is when you use it. Upward is to...
the divine.
Right. And inward, so I'm peaceful. Great.
So stay with this for as long as you wish.
Okay.
And you'll explore more and more the treasures that are there within the inner being, within your own inner world. And if it takes weeks and months and years, that's also fine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fine.
Does it normally take a long time?
No.
No.
For me, it took one lesson,
Okay.
so 45 minutes. And then I came back the next day and another 45 minutes lesson, and it was very fast. But I'm aware that there are people who may not necessarily come with a belief in God, but maybe just a query, a question. Is there such a being? And so I say yes because I know of one particular individual who actually now promotes these ideas. But it took him a few years, but that's fine. But for me, there was a desire to discover whether there is a being who is the supreme.
Okay.
And when I heard this information about the self, the inner being, the soul, and the next step I heard was that, well, there's nothing mysterious about God. God is simply the supreme soul. Just as a soul is a being of light, God the Supreme is also a being of light, without physical form or even angelic form.
Now, you're saying that with a great deal of certitude. Now, did someone tell you that, and then you kind of got it? Or did you get it and then tell other people?
I first had the experience of the inner being, the self, the soul, and how really that being that I am, the authentic self, you could use that term. So that inner being, the authentic, the original self, is a being of light, and I could feel it, I could experience it. And that experience wasn't just in the center, but when I was walking home, I could feel it. And it must have been about 10, 11 in the morning that I'd had this lesson, and that feeling stayed with me the whole day. I came back the next day, and when they said that there's a huge variety of souls, and every soul is unique and individual, seems right.
Yeah.
This is my experience.
Yeah, sure.
But out of all souls, there is one who is the Supreme. And why we call him the Supreme is because there's the maximum amount of love, of truth, of peace, of joy in that being. So it didn't seem a fanciful idea, it seemed a very reasonable idea. And so they said, experiment with that.
And you did?
I did.
And the experiment was a success?
It was beyond my expectations.
Sure.
It was a very, very powerful experience of light and love and joy.
So, I mean, tonight we've got a lot to do, but I'm thinking that it would be good tonight if we could do step one, and if we've got the courage, we've got Dadi Janki here, do step two. But I've on my cheat sheet here, I've got another question to ask you, because you've talked about inward, upward, and I want to be careful with the time, but I just want to quickly go into this outward thing, because underneath yoga power it says in a world of chaos. And so my question really relates to how do we use yoga power in this old world of ours, because presumably that's a bit of the outward thing. So
Raj Yoga has another name that it's known by, And that's this term, karma yoga, the yoga of action, which means that because it's a connection of the mind or even of the heart with the divine, you're able to keep this connection no matter what else you're doing. So, for example, as we communicate together, it's either possible for me to be in a great state of great ego, I want to prove that I'm right,
Sure.
or it could be the awareness of being an instrument, the awareness of being connected with the divine, so that those vibrations reach out and support the conversation.
Yeah.
And so even as we're engaged in action, we're able to bring that experience of the divine back into our lives, so that then the quality of the way in which we think and speak and behave is changed by this. And it's touched by that light and truth. And you can see that this is what is very much needed in the world today.
And presumably, I mean, when we mean power, it means that whatever I do has a greater effect. I mean, the more powerful I am, the more effect it will have on those outside of me. So if I have yoga power, this power you're talking about, then, you know, if I say, be good, without yoga power, you're going to ignore me. But if I have yoga power and I say, be good, it'll change your life. I mean, is that...
That's one way, but that's just simply seeing the influence on others.
Okay.
And think about yoga power as, say, willpower.
So it's...
I have something that I'm addicted to. It could be as dangerous as coffee and ice cream, or it could be
You know my
dangerous.
weaknesses. Yeah.
I do. But also it could be worse than that. We know that when there's an addiction, we want to get rid of it, but we don't have the power. It's a term that we would always use. And then some people would even say, I don't have the willpower to be able to change this. I know that it's no good, but I can't do anything about it. I feel helpless. And so this inner power that is missing so often in our lives is something that comes back to us through this connection. And that doesn't happen just through this inner journey. That's really the first part. But if I'm looking for that energy, that power with which I can bring transformation within myself, and addictions to substances is one thing, but we're all addicted to maybe our attachments, our desires, our egos, all of those things. And so the power to be able to change that happens through that connection.
Okay, so the message is the power of yoga is really first and foremost change the self.
That's right.
And is it impossible for me to change? Can I do it without God?
I don't think so.
No.
No.
Okay. So that's really the reason for God to it. Yeah, I mean, it's a good reason.
God is.
God is.
So
and by having our connection with God, we get this power that we wouldn't otherwise have, and we change. Now, do we change into something that we aren't otherwise, or?
We get glimpses of beauty within the soul, and then at times that beauty seems to have got covered up by a whole heap of dust. And then we wonder, you know, why am I feeling the way I am? One day I felt so joyful, so happy, I was able to share light. And another day, well, I need somebody to bring me light. I'm in a state of darkness. And so we've had these experiences of both the high and the low. And the relationship with the divine allows us to deal with this fluctuation and to be able to come to a greater and greater state of stability, so that then the beauty of the inner being becomes totally natural and is being expressed more and more, and maybe all the time.
Yeah. And that's the end game, to be like that all the time.
Correct.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be good?
Well, maybe it's not the end. Maybe it's the beginning of something very beautiful.
This is great. This conversation is too good. The time is going ahead. We're late. I'm in trouble, although I'm not quite sure who with. Tonight we promise that you, of course, will be seeing, meeting, Dadi Janki again, and so now I would like to invite up onto the stage Dadi Janki, who is head of the whole organization, the worldwide organization of the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual University. While Dadi is just making her way up onto the stage, we're going to have a little bit of silence, but for those of you who have not met Dadi, Dadi, if you won't believe this, but Dadi is walking up onto the stage right now in her 100th year. She's 99 years old. She is really a phenomenon. She is still traveling around the world and speaking, and maybe speaking a little bit less than she used to, but no less is the power of her presence. And tonight, in our continued conversation, we hope that we can educe for you some of the secrets of how to really build the power of yoga in your life, because this is someone who really is living proof that it can be done. So shall we just go into a little bit of silence, because I know we're going to be talking a bit more about the power of silence and how we can use silence as Dadi comes onto the stage. Dadi. Welcome to the stage, Dadi. Dadi, we have to make them all into yogis tonight.
आज की शाम में सभी को योगी बनाना है।
योगी बनाना है। बड़ी बात है।
To make you all into yogis, it's not a big thing.
Fantastic. So, Dadi.
पहले मैं अभी शुरू करूँ या शांत में बैठे हैं?
Dadi's asking, should I begin or should we begin with a few minutes of silence? Let's have 5 minutes of silence.
Dadi, how is it?
Pati out.
Lights down a little. Dadi, how is it that silence...
In fact, Dad is asking for the house lights to be on. Thank you.
Huh.
जब नहीं silence में बैठेंगे, light off नहीं करें.
And even during the silence, if there could be some soft house lighting, that would be good.
नहीं.
Dadi, how is it that silence gives us power? How does that work?
Silence में हमें शक्ति कैसे मिलती है?
Silence. अभी जब मैं साइंस में साइलेंस में रहना सीखी तो मुख से कुछ नहीं बोल रहा हूँ.
When I first,
परमात्मा पिता है मेरा, माता है, पिता है, शिक्षक है, सखा है, सतगुरु भी है.
when I first learnt about silence, I understood that there's no need to say anything in words, but simply to have that experience of the loving relationship with God, God as my mother, my father, my friend, my teacher, and the supreme guide.
मैं जो बोलेंगी आपके अपने अनुभव से बोलेंगे.
The things I share are things from my experience.
कोई समय पहले मैं भगवान को ढूंढती थी. भगवान कहाँ है, कैसा है. भगवान के लिए बहुत उसको जानने की लगन थी.
From an early age, I was searching for God. There was a deep love and a great desire to get to know God. Who is God? Where is He?
समय आया, परमात्मा बाप ने ऐसा कनेक्शन लाइट. पहले आत्मा समझो अपन को.
And when the right moment came, it became very easy. And the first thing I understood was that God is telling me to have the awareness of the self as a soul.
तो अभी मैं बताती हूँ, अपन को आत्मा समझने से बॉडी कॉन्शियस की नेचर चेंज हो जाती है.
And in that consciousness of the self as a soul, the consciousness which is usually the consciousness of the body, that finishes.
पहले मैं पूछती हूँ पहला बारी यहाँ कौन बैठा है.
That is interested to know who's here for the first
पहला
time.
बारी कौन आया है. हाँ, अच्छा. मेरा हाथ देखो, भले आए. आज
It's good you all come.
शांत रहने में शक्ति मिलती है और शक्ति शांति देती है. सुना?
When I experience peace, there's power within that, but also the power that I have allows me to stay peaceful.
जब परमात्मा का परिचय मिला, कौन है, कैसा है, कहाँ रहता है.
Once I had the understanding of who is God, who is He, where is He, what is He,
परमात्मा निराकार है.
the Supreme Soul, that is using the term the Supreme Soul,
परम धाम में रहने वाला
is
है.
without physical form, without corporeal form, lives in that
Yeah.
region beyond,
जहाँ निर्वाण धाम है, ना वाणी नहीं है.
a place which has been described as a place beyond sound.
तो परमात्मा अपना परिचय देता है ब्रह्मा बाबा के द्वारा.
the introduction of the Supreme Being has come to us through Brahma Baba, the
ब्रह्मा
founder.
बाबा को मैं पहले भी जानती थी,
I knew this person before he became Brahma Baba,
परंतु मुझे अपने बाप से वो अच्छा लगता है.
and I knew him in
मेरा बाप ही
childhood,
अच्छा था.
and my father was a good man, but I thought that Brahma Baba was a very good man.
जवाहरत का धंधा करता था, वो भी करता, ये भी करता.
My father and this man both were jewelers,
परंतु उसके नेचर जो है ना, बहुत स्वीट थी.
and the nature of this individual was one of great sweetness.
हम कलकत्ता में बाबा के साथ के दुकान पर मेरे लौकिक बाप के साथ गई थी.
We had gone to visit the shop, the jewelry
दो
shop
बहनें
that
थी.
Brahma Baba ran, and
तो
we'd
बाबा
gone
ने
with my father.
मेरे बाप से पूछा, ये बच्चियां कहाँ रहेंगी?
So Brahma Baba asked my father, where are you all staying?
तो कहा गेस्ट हाउस में मैंने प्रबंध किया.
And he said that I've arranged things in a guest house.
कहा नहीं, ये अपने बाप के घर रहेंगी.
And he said, no, let the children, I was there with my sister, so let the children and you come and stay
वो
with
घर
me.
इतना शांति वाला था, जो अभी तक भी वो घर बहुत अच्छा है.
That home still exists today, and it's a home where there's a lot of peace.
तो आप योग के बारे बोल रहे थे.
You were talking about yoga.
मैं थोड़ा योग के बारे में बताऊं.
Should I tell you a little bit about yoga?
योग माना याद.
Yoga means remembrance.
याद में रहने से, यानी परमात्मा बाप के सिवा और कोई बात याद नहीं है.
To have such remembrance that I don't remember anyone else except God.
जो मुझे जानते हैं उनको पता है, मुझे कल क्या हुआ था याद नहीं है, सुबह को क्या हुआ याद नहीं है.
Those of you who know me know that I won't remember what happened yesterday. I won't even remember what happened this
बीती
morning.
को चितो नहीं, आगे की रखो नाश.
Don't touch anything of the past and have no desires for the
समझा?
future.
बीती को चितो नहीं,
Don't touch the past
आगे की कोई आश नहीं.
and have no expectations or desires for the future.
फिर देखो परमात्मा की शक्ति,
And then you'll see
ये तो मानेंगे सर्वशक्तिवान है.
how God's power works. People believe that God is the almighty authority.
सर्वशक्तिवान मेरा बाप है.
The one who's the almighty authority is my Father.
हर एक अपने दिल से पूछे.
Each one can ask their own heart.
वो वहाँ रहता है.
He lives up above, beyond.
यहाँ ब्रह्मा बाबा के तन में अचानक प्रवेश हुआ, इतनी रोशनी मिली, आत्मा समझना इजी हो गया.
There came a moment when that divine being started to do his work through the human instrument of Brahma Baba. And when I met Brahma Baba, at that moment it was as if there was light that reached me.
गीता पढ़ते थे.
I used to study the Gita.
भगवान कहता है मेरे को याद करो तो तुम्हारा विक्रम नाश हो जाएगा.
And in that I used to read that God says that if you remember me, I will absolve you of all your past misdeeds.
याद माना याद करना नहीं पड़ता है.
When remembrance is natural, you don't need to make effort for remembrance.
मुझे जानते हैं, जयंती भी जानती है, ये भी जान, मुझे याद करना पड़ता है.
Dadi says, many of you know me, Anthony, Jayanti know me.
परंतु
Do I have to have
उसकी
remembrance?
शक्ति खींच दो तो वो काम करती है.
But you can capture that energy, that power, and that begins to work in your life.
70 साल हुआ कितना.
79.
79 years.
That he was checking. How many years have I been practicing yoga? 79 years.
मैं हूँ आत्मा,
I'm a soul
देह से न्यारी.
separate to this body.
मैं कोई देह नहीं हूँ.
I'm not a body.
देह में को चलाने वाली मैं आत्मा हूँ.
I'm not the body, I'm the soul that is here making this body function.
ये सुनने से है तो प्रैक्टिस करते हैं.
I hear these things, but more importantly, I have to practice these ideas.
मैं 3 बारी ओम शांति करती हूँ.
I usually say Om Shanti 3 times.
अभी भी करेंगे.
I can do it now.
ओम शांति.
Om Shanti.
ओम शांति.
Om Shanti.
ओम शांति.
Om Shanti.
मैं शांत स्वरूप हूँ.
She's teaching you Hindi now.
शक्ति आ जाती है.
As soon as I say and I feel I am the embodiment of peace, the soul, I can feel that power.
देह के संबंधी यहाँ है, मैं तो वहाँ.
The body and bodily relations are here and I'm up above.
जो परमात्मा बाप ऊपर रहता है ना, तो मैं भी, मेरा घर भी तो वहाँ ही है ना.
The home of the Supreme is beyond, up above, but that is also my
तो
home.
बाप को घर में बुद्धि योग ऊपर लगाओ तो नीचे से न्यारे और प्यारे बन जाते हैं.
When on the inner level with my intellect I'm connected with the Divine who's up above, then even though I'm here in this world, I can be very detached and yet very loving.
जयंती के संकल्प से विदेश में आने के लिए ऊपर से मुझे प्रेरणा मिली 74 में अप्रैल मास में. इसने कहा मैं अकेली लंदन नहीं जाऊंगी, तो मुझे भी मिला मधुबन में अपने यज्ञ में, तो तुमको जाना चाहिए. मैं इंग्लिश नहीं जानती हूँ.
In April
परंतु
74,
आत्मा के ठहरो, आत्मा के ज्ञान से परमात्मा के संबंध से मेरा यहाँ आना हुआ.
in April 74, Jayanti had said that Dadi should come to London, and so I received instructions from above. I was in Madhuban, our headquarters in India, and I was told that I had to go to London, and I didn't speak English, but what has brought me here is the understanding of the self as a soul and my relationship with God.
मैं आत्मा हूँ ना, मना मन बुद्धि संस्कार.
When I say I'm a soul, what I mean is that within this being that I am, there is the mind, the intellect, the capacity to understand, and also patterns of behavior, my sanskars.
जब दिल ये या कहेगी हाथ यहाँ लगाएगी.
When we use the word heart, then we touch our body here.
ऐसे लगाएंगे. दिल है यहाँ, मन अंदर है.
And the mind is within.
भटकता है कहीं होगा.
And the mind very often stumbles around from here to there.
एक पराई बात, दूसरी पुरानी बात.
Old things and things that are belonging to others,
तो
nothing to do
बुद्धि
with me.
शुद्ध नहीं बनती.
And so there's no cleanliness in this container that holds knowledge,
मन
this
को
would-be
शांत रखो,
intellect.
बुद्धि को शुद्ध बनाओ.
Keep the mind peaceful and let the intellect become clean,
कभी भी व्यर्थ संकल्प नहीं.
so that there's no waste thoughts.
योग माना क्या?
What does yoga mean?
शांति,
Peace,
प्रेम,
love,
खुशी,
happiness,
शक्ति.
power.
वंडरफुल.
It's wonderful.
कहाँ से आ रही है?
Where is all this coming from?
उनसे कनेक्शन, उनसे जैसे लाइट होती है
through the
अच्छा
connection with
लगता है,
that one.
सब देख रहे
When there's
हैं।
light,
अंधकार होए
you can see easily. In darkness, you can't see.
तो योग से परम के संबंध से लाइट रहे बहुत।
And so when there's the connection with the Supreme Yoga, then there's illumination, there's
आप
light.
समझते हो ना, लाइट एक रोशनी है, दूसरा लाइट हल्कापन है।
So light has two meanings. One is the illumination and the other is weightlessness.
मैं 5 मिनट फिर से साइलेंट में बिठाएंगे, परंतु ये सब पहले करती हूँ।
We'll have a few minutes of silence again, but I want to clarify this first.
तो आत्मा जब देह संबंध से, ये देह है, ये मेरे संबंधी है, ये मेरे नहीं है, ये देह की है।
In the awareness of the soul, I know that the body is separate and everything here is related to the body, and so that's also separate.
आज से जब मैं और मेरा कहो, समझ के करना।
So from today, when you use the word I and you use the word mine or my, just think deeply about it.
मैं हूँ आत्मा, मेरा है परमात्मा।
I am the soul and mine, who is mine? It's God.
तो बुद्धि योग वहाँ हो जाता है।
Then
ये योग है।
then your intellect is connected with the one above. This is yoga.
फिर दिल कहता है,
Then the heart says,
और मैं योग के गहराई में जाऊँ।
I want to go into further depth of yoga,
डीप जाऊँ।
deeper.
उसमें क्या करना है मेरे को?
What must I do for that?
एकांत प्रिय,
To love solitude,
अंतर्मुक्ता।
to practice introversion.
अभी अंतर्मुक्ता के गहराई में जाओ।
Go into the depth of what does it mean to be introverted.
बैर मुक्ता, बैर की बातें
When I'm extroverted,
दिमाग में, दिल में।
there's 1,000 things out there and they impact my head and my heart.
दिल में पता नहीं दुख,
Then in my
दिमाग
heart,
कुछ काम न करे।
there's sorrow and my head doesn't work properly.
स्वभाव भी ऐसे हो जाता है।
And then our nature becomes influenced.
फिर मनुष्य स्वभाव के बस हो जाता है।
And then we're trapped by our own nature.
संस्कार ऐसे बन जाते हैं
And our patterns of behavior become the same.
जिसमें मैं मेरा का जब नॉलेज आई तो हमारे कर्म भी सुधर गए।
And with the knowledge of I and mine, the quality of my actions is transformed.
कर्म बड़े बलवान है,
Actions are very powerful.
अच्छे कर्म।
Good actions.
आज का दिन कितना महान है।
This day, today is a wonderful day.
तो भगवान सर्वशक्तिवान है।
And God is the Almighty Authority.
अभी भारत में वैसे कृष्ण कहेंगे गॉड फादर है, मुसलमान फादर है, गॉड फादर है, बस इतना ही कहेंगे। मुसलमान कहेंगे अल्लाह है, और भारतवासी क्या बोलेंगे? परमात्मा भगवान है, मेरा भाई बनाता, प्रभु है, तेरी लीला वंडरफुल है।
In Christianity, they would say that God is the Father. A Muslim would say Allah. In India, they would say that God is the one who is Bhagwan, the one who bestows fortune, Prabhu, the one who knows this divine game.
मैं दिल की बात सुनाती हूँ। दुनिया विनाशी है, कभी भी क्या दुनिया में लगा पड़ा है। जैसे मनुष्यों के कर्म वैसे है, धर्म क्या है वो भी पता नहीं है।
The conditions of the world today are very fragile and you don't know what's going to happen next. Things happen quickly, suddenly, and so you can all see what's going on all around us, and so nothing is stable or permanent. It's very perishable.
स्वधर्म है शांत।
but my original state of being is peace. And earlier, Dadi was saying that we're looking at the state of the religions of the world also, but the Swadharma, the religion of the self, is peace.
मैं वंडर कहती हूँ जब हमारे को ज्ञान मिला था सैलिस में रहने का अनुभव शुरू हुआ तब से साइंस ने क्या कर दिया.
From the time that we started to study the power of silence, from that time onwards, we are seeing the amazing things that science has done.
कितनी बिल्डिंगें क्या क्या दुनिया में क्या हो जैसा बॉम्बे है जैसे लंदन है दिल्ली है.
Look at all the cities in the world, whether it's London or Bombay or Delhi. We see amazing buildings and people have great arrogance of all the things that science has done. But people don't have time for silence. But I have all the time for silence. And if this is my religion, that of peace and silence, my actions are according to that.
एक गीत अच्छा लगता है मुझको अपना बना के मुस्कुराना सिखा दिया.
And there's a song they play in India that says, having made me belong to you, you've taught me how to smile.
पता है ना ये गीत अच्छा है.
It's a very beautiful song.
मुझको अपना बना के मुस्कुराना सिखा. कोई बात मुश्किल नहीं.
You've taught me to smile, and so now nothing is difficult.
भगवान कहता है तुम अपना भी भाग्य बनाओ.
God says, create your fortune.
अपना टाइम कर्म अच्छे व्यवहार संबंध अच्छा.
Use your time in a worthwhile way. Make sure that your thoughts and actions and behavior is meaningful and right. Do you feel that you are my brothers and sisters? Raise your hands. My brothers and sisters.
देखो ये इसको कैसे पकड़ा था. इसकी माँ है ना कितने साल की है पता नहीं.
Dadi's remembering Anthony's mother.
बड़ा प्यार.
How old is Claudie?
She's 90.
जब से ये पीछे पैदा हुआ इसकी माँ पहले आई.
Anthony's mother came earlier to Raj Yoga than he did, but his sister came first. Denise.
जो अभी सारी दुनिया में चक्कर लगा रही है.
Denise travels the world teaching yoga.
उसको आत्मा का ज्ञान जब जयंती दे रही थी मैंने देखा कैसे अभी अंग्रेज लोग भी ये ज्ञान ले सकते.
When Denise took the lesson of the soul, I was seeing how it impacted her, and I thought it's good. People abroad are understanding what soul is.
जाति, रंग, भाषा ये भेद चला गया है ही नहीं.
And in that awareness of soul, all the external things that divide us all disappear. Color, race, religion, all of these things go away.
सारे विश्व की सेवा करने के लिए मेरा भाग्य मिला है.
I've had the fortune of being able to serve the world.
अभी थोड़ा साइलेंस में नहीं.
Should we have a few minutes of silence? Reflect on the things you've been hearing.
अभी बोलना सुनना नहीं है.
Now we don't have to speak or listen, but just go inside.
Dadi, you told us that you have been a Raj Yogi for 79 years.
आपने बताया कि आप राज योगी रहे हैं 79 years से.
And in that 79 years, and I know some of them, you have had to face many obstacles and challenges.
इतने वर्षों में आपके सामने कई प्रकार के विघ्न भी आए होंगे, कई प्रकार के challenges भी आए हैं.
You gave us a very beautiful ideas around the power of silence and the need to remember God.
आपने कई अच्छी बातें सुनाई कि हम भगवान को क्यों याद करें और साइलेंस पावर क्या होती है.
Could you please talk about a little bit the power not just of silence but of patience and determination?
आप थोड़ा हमें और स्पष्ट बताएं कि धीरज रहने की शक्ति और दृढ़ता की शक्ति क्या होती.
Because these are things I know many of us have experienced you to have and to use to bring about great success in your life.
हम आपके जीवन में कई बारी देखते हैं कि धीरज की शक्ति और दृढ़ता की शक्ति से आपने बहुत अच्छी तरह से काम करके आप सफल रहे हैं.
कोई भाई बहन 30-40 साल से जानते हैं.
There are some brothers and sisters here who know me for the past 30-40 years.
मैं एक मिसाल देती हूँ, फिर आपको सब 2-3 बात सुनाएंगी.
Let me share one example. Many other stories, but one thing.
पर अंदर इतनी बाप की शक्ति है.
And internally I feel that power from God.
जो कभी मुझे चिंता लगे या फिक्र होए,
And so I never get worried or anxious.
इसका अक्ल नहीं है.
I don't know how to do that.
मैं समझती हूँ वो मेरा साथी है.
I feel that He is my companion
हमेशा.
always.
तो योग लगाना नहीं पड़ता है.
It's not a question of just having yoga and connecting,
हर बात में साथी है.
but He's my companion at all times.
कईयों ने कंपेनियन ऑफ गॉड का बुक पढ़ा होगा या कई भाषाओं में निकला है.
You might have seen the book Companion of God. It's been translated into several languages.
भगवान को कंपेनियन बना दो.
Make God your companion,
कितना शांत है.
and you enjoy it greatly.
उसके कंपनी का ही आज हम टेंशन उड़ रहे. कितना 13 पाउंड हफ्ते का किराए पर अभी भी व्यवस्था है.
We started from a very tiny place in Kilburn in Tennyson Road,
आज ग्लोबल
and we're here now.
जब भी मैं इस बिल्डिंग में पहले आती हूँ उसको याद कर.
When I enter this building, I remember God.
यहाँ ग्लोबल हाउस के सामने कोई बिल्डिंग ये नहीं थी.
And in front of this building, when we started
बाजू में
in 91, there were just derelict buildings across the
किसने
road.
किया?
And around us here also it was pretty run down. So
GRC
who's done all this?
रिट्रीट सेंटर है.
There's a beautiful
सब
retreat
करवाता
center
है.
in Oxfordshire, and yes, he has instruments through which he gets things done.
10 साल डडनल में क्लास होता था.
For 10 years we were in a community center just across the way here, a few minutes
चलते
away.
चलते ये जमीन देख ली.
And going back from Dadi Hill, where we used to have classes, back to our residence,
कहीं
in
स्टोरी
Wilston,
है
we saw this place,
सब सहज
and it happened in an amazing way.
सहज मिले सो दूध बराबर मांग लिया सो पानी
In India, they say, if something comes to you naturally, automatically, easily, it's like receiving milk. And if you have to ask for it, it's like having
उसका
water.
कार्य भी सहज है
And so yoga is easy and natural. His task is
इसमें
easy
गुप्त
and
बात
natural.
है ज्ञान स्वमान में रहने के लिए सिखाता है
And one incognito aspect of this is that spiritual knowledge teaches us how to maintain our own inner self-respect.
मान के भूखे अपमान में दुखी
And then we are not hungry for respect from outside or unhappy if there's disrespect.
जो आपने कहा धीरज बहुत सुख देता है
You mentioned patience. Patience gives a lot of happiness.
अभी मुझे पता था खांसी होंगी डॉक्टर ने कहा डॉक्टर बैठा था उसको था तो हम नई क्लास में कैसे जाएंगे
I knew that I had a cough and I had a doctor with me, and so I was a few minutes late coming here. And you said, how are you going to talk for so long?
क्योंकि इतना ऐसा परिवार यहाँ योग के बारे में
But I knew that there was going to be a gathering of my brothers and sisters who were interested in the subject of yoga, and so I was very determined I had to come.
मिसाल देती हूँ 5 अंगुली बराबर नहीं है
The 5 fingers are not the same.
ये छोटी है
The little one,
ये मोटी है
the big one,
ये मोटी ये छोटी
the little one and the big one.
ये जो अंगुली है सबके सहयोग से ये सेवा हुई है
The little finger is seen as a symbol of cooperation, and it's been with everyone's cooperation that service has
क्योंकि
happened.
यहाँ कोई नहीं कह सकता मैंने की है
And then no one individual can say, I have done this. Can anyone say that? No one can say, I have done this.
भाग्यवान हूँ जो भगवान ने संयोगी बनाया है
You can see the resemblance of the word bhagya, fortune, and Bhagwan, God, the bestower of fortune. So it's my fortune that God, the bestower of fortune, has given me the possibility of doing something and giving my support to create fortune. That is recognizing Shashiben and also Manjuben, the early students, the first students of London,
सम्मान देना
to maintain respect and give respect.
और सभी बाबा के बच्चे हैं
And to see everyone as my family, the children of God.
तो ये wisdom है
The middle finger is a
ये
symbol of
विजय की
wisdom.
निशानी ये
And
wisdom ये एक है
the ring finger is a symbol of victory. And this first finger, the forefinger,
ये
is
मोटी है
the one
यहाँ
that gives a signal.
अलग है
The thumb is completely separate.
पर इसका इनसे कनेक्शन हो गया
And the signal to one and the thumb, the symbol of
जब
determination,
ये
come
और
together.
ये दोनों आपस में मिल गए
Both come together.
तो क्या उसने किया या मेरे को निमित्त बनाया
And then whether it's that he has done it all or he's made me an instrument to make things happen,
धीरज निमित्ता बहुत
patience
जरूरी है
and humility are very needed.
निमित्ता क्या कहते हैं humble निमित्ता क्या है
Humility
कितना सुखी बना
makes one very, very happy.
कभी अपमान की फीलिंग नहीं है
And there's never then a bad feeling of
कभी
disrespect
मान की इच्छा नहीं
and no desire for respect.
मान की इच्छा नहीं पूरी होती है तो रूखा रूखा बन जाती है
When I have a desire for respect and that's not fulfilled, then the soul feels empty and dry.
दुनिया में रहते दुनिया कैसी भी है मुझे न भी मानते भी कुछ भी करे
Living in the world, no matter if the world doesn't give me respect, whatever
वो
happens,
बदलेंगे हम नहीं बदलेंगे
the world may change, but I have the guarantee that I'm not going to change.
मेरे सपन में चाहे संकल्प में सृष्टि के गोला है एक फोटो रखा है
In my dreams and my thoughts, I have this awareness of the whole world in front of me.
वो मेरा उसको भाई शांति के वाइब्रेशन दो
And I give vibrations of peace to the world.
मैंने को इसको पता है जो साथ रहते हैं शांत रहने में टाइम बहुत है
Those who live with me know that I have a lot of time for silence.
एक होते हैं टाकी दूसरे होते हैं मूवी तीसरे को साइलेंट
There's a stage which is one of talky stage. Another stage in which there's
पहले
action,
पुराने ज़माने में
motions, but without the
मूवी
speech.
फिल्में होती थी
In the
टाकी
old
नहीं
days, we used to have silent movies without speech.
अभी मनुष्य कहते हैं बोलने के बगैर नहीं काम होता
Today-
बोलो संभल के बोलो
Today, people say, how can you manage without sound? But be careful of what you do say.
बोलो तो ऐसा बोलो जो आपके मुख से रतन निकलेगा
Speak in such a way that from your lips come jewels.
जो जीवन सफली हमारी हो औरों की सफली हो
Let my life be meaningful and worthwhile, and let my words help others make
तो
their life
अंदर
worthwhile.
संकल्प कैसी क्वालिटी का हो
So what should be the quality of my thoughts inside?
फर्स्ट क्लास
First class.
फर्स्ट क्लास माना ये फर्स्ट क्लास है ना
First class thoughts.
समझा इसका चेहरा ही चेंज हो गया
Anthony's face is changing.
मुझे पता नहीं था एंटनी आज यहाँ बैठेगा
I didn't realize that Anthony was going to be
और कुछ
interviewing me.
पूछो
Anything else you want to ask?
पूछो
Go ahead, ask.
You know, Dadi,
यही पूछा धीरज और दृढ़ता
Ji.
कमाल है दो शक्ति
Patience and determination are inner powers which show wonders,
हो जाएगा
and things happen.
हो जाएगा
It'll happen.
Daddy, we don't have much time. You know, the time police are on my case, but I'm enjoying this conversation. So, Daddy,
क्या
you know, I do want to ask you a question that's not on my list of questions to ask you.
और प्रश्न पूछना है.
पूछो
I want to know the power of feelings. How have you used in your life the power of feelings?
मैं जानने चाहता हूँ कि feelings की शक्ति क्या होती, भावना की शक्ति क्या होती.
But you can't say for long, we've only got 5 minutes.
परंतु अभी 5 मिनट में समाप्त करना होगा.
कोई भी क्वेश्चन का जवाब 1 मिनट नहीं आधा मिनट साइलेंस में रहने से अच्छा मिलता है
If I have half a minute, not even a minute, just half a minute of silence before answering a question, the answer is going to be useful.
Okay.
क्या क्वेश्चन है
भावना की शक्ति.
मेरी अंदर कई कहानियाँ सच्ची भावना रखने से। पहला भाई साहब बैठे हैं ये, मैं अमृतसर में, मुझे बाबा ने दिल्ली से अमृतसर में भेजा। वहाँ का वेदांत सम्मेलन था। वेदांत सम्मेलन में निमंत्रण आया, कोई ब्रह्मा कुमारी आवे। तभी तो मुझे लेक्चर करना नहीं आता था। 250 महात्मा, 10,000 जनता।
One particular story about the power of good feelings, pure feelings. In the early 50s, I was in Delhi, and there was a conference on the Vedas in Amritsar, and Dadi speaking to Mr. Sidhu particularly, he's from Punjab. And so it was a gathering of 10,000 people with 250 sages and saints. Their disciples would come to them to touch their feet. They had given me a little tent, and there was a sister with me. They used to cook many varieties of things, but I didn't eat those things, and they used to see that I wasn't going there. What we used to do was to take a little bit of flour and a few potatoes and cook those in our little tent.
वंडर तो ये था, जब सभा में भाषण के लिए बुलाया,
And when I would speak in the gathering,
पहला भाषण ऐसा निकलता रहा, ऐसा लाल बत्ती जगाई, तो उसको मना किया जनता ने, इसको बोलने दो.
And when I spoke, there was something that was flowing and flowing, and they kept pushing the red light, but the audience wanted to continue to hear, so they had to let me continue to speak.
लिख करके भेजा 3-4 पेज में, परंतु वो पीछे आया, पहले मेरा बना.
In fact, Brahma Baba had written a letter giving me instructions of what to say, but I received the letter afterwards.
Connection.
But there was that subtle connection and faith in the self,
and
the feeling of God's power being available. And it was that energy that worked, and that was the start of service in Punjab, and 22 centers began very quickly all over Punjab, now many. We used to have early morning peace processions, 5 o'clock in the morning, and go through the whole city
Om Shanti
with the chant of Om Shanti.
ठीक है.
Dadi, thank you so much. We've run out of time. Let's just end now with some silence.
What does silence mean? You can have your eyes open, and then you're less likely to be drowsy. One is to be drowsy and the other is to choke. There are so many things that go on inside that cause confusion and make us choke.
Be silent.
But to be free from that and just be still, silent.
So,
आप बताओ.
and so now, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our evening, and I would like to, of course, especially thanks to Dadi for being here with us tonight and sharing this amazing knowledge, feeling and presence to really give us the experience of the power of yoga. And I think, I hope, that each and every one of you has, especially within the context of the time we spent in these 3 separate sessions of silence, just at the very least had a feeling and experience of the power of silence. And this power of silence, with some of the explanation that you've been given, is really something that we can work with in our everyday life. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, as is pretty well the norm for any Brahma Kumari program that you come to, we always end with a period when we invite you up to take toli and receive drishti while you're receiving the toli. Now, toli is a little sweet that's made by us here, and it's actually one of the best parts of any BK program. You always get free sweets. But another best part is that we have the opportunity, while we're taking toli, to have that meeting in silence between one soul and another. You remember right at the beginning of our program tonight, Jayanti was telling us about becoming aware of the self as the being of peace behind our eyes, behind our forehead. You are that. We are all that. And as we take drishti and take our toli, we can experience that feeling of one soul meeting another soul in silence and in peace. So I think toli will be given from in front of the stage here, and we invite you all up one by one, and the ushers will help you to take toli, and then we say to you, good night, may the power of yoga be with you. Om Shanti.
जाओ नहीं.
Where do I go with all these feelings and all these faces and open doors when everyone else seems so serene and I just feel so insecure? And where do I go when all the pieces of my heart lay on the floor? You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. Where do I go with all these memories and all these bags filled up with shame? And how should I feel when you call me an angel and dress me in a crown of gold? And what should I do when tears of sorrow just won't stay inside these eyes? You say, come into the light, why don't you? Come into the light, why don't you? Come on now, come into the light. What should I do when a gentle-headed reaches out to take my own? And how How should I feel when tears of joy, they just won't stay inside these eyes that